The May agenda briefing session open and welcome all councillors we've been here since, 11 o'clock this morning already, so thank you for that, and staff that we have in here, thank you very much. Agenda briefing sessions are used to inform councillors on the items of business to be presented and discussed at the forthcoming ordinary council meeting. These meetings are open to members of the public who may request to present a deputation to council relating to an item on the agenda. No decisions are made at these meetings, although councillors can request additional information or alternative wording be provided to allow for motions to be prepared for consideration at the forthcoming ordinary council meeting. Any statement regarding any planning or development application made during an agenda briefing session is not to be taken as notice of approval. Anyone who has an application lodged with the Shire must obtain and should only rely on written confirmation of the outcome of the application and any conditions attached to the decision made by council. An audio and visual record will be made by means of live streaming of these proceedings and uploaded to the Shire's YouTube page for viewing. The Shire of Harvey acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land and their continuing connection to the land, waters and community. We pay our respects to all members of the Aboriginal communities, their cultures and to elders past and present. Record of apologies and leave of absence. I've received an apology from Councillor Dickinson, who is currently undertaking WELGA diploma training. Other than that, all other councillors are present. Declarations of members and officers' personal interest. I've received a declaration of interest from Councillor Dickinson, who is not here, so that's very good of her. And Councillor Coleman has an impartiality interest in item 5.2.2, which is the closure of the unused road reserve, and Councillor Coleman will remain in the chamber. Are there any other declarations of interests, councillors and or staff? Deputations is nil. Before we start, I just wish to acknowledge the receipt, and I'll do this more formally at next week's ordinary council meeting, but because it is already gone socially, on our socials and the like, to formally acknowledge the resignation of our CEO, Miss Annie Reardon. So congratulations to Annie. She is leaving us and moving onwards and upwards to the city of Busselton as the CEO. So in short, Annie, congratulations on that appointment. Very well deserved, and there will be more to follow in regards to that announcement. So we'll now move into the officers' reports, and we'll start with the 5.1.1, which is the city status investigation outcome. A very detailed report and attachments that councillors have received. Do we have any questions, councillors? Councillor Coleman.
Thanks, Madam President. On page 6.4b of the agenda, it clearly states that the resolution of council was to prepare a report for council's consideration, which includes a recommendation to council on whether the transition to city status should occur. I couldn't see that in the officer's recommendation, and I'm just wondering why.
There was much discussion around, and I understand that was the resolution. There was much discussion around whether the CEO should be placed in a position to make that sort of recommendation, as it was a council's decision whether we proceed or not proceed with the city status process. So the direction was to be more generic in the officer's recommendation to council, but the intent, I suppose, of the recommendation sits in that report. Did you want to add anything, CEO, to that, or?
No, this agenda item was prepared while I was on leave, but yes, that was the intent in regards to allowing council to make and provide the direction in regards to the city status based on the investigational report and the community consultation.
Councillor Coleman?
Yeah, I'm just curious, as because council always makes the decision anyway, why, if council resolved that there would be a recommendation, why isn't that not done? Because it's not as if anybody, whether it be the CEO or otherwise, is telling us how to vote. I'm just wondering why a resolution was ignored and the recommendation isn't in there, because that's what the council resolution was, and that is still up for significant debate by councillors, I would suggest probably next week. So yeah, I think I'm just curious as to that is a complete departure, or why is that a complete departure from a council resolution?
I suppose the direction was that, not direction but guidance, was to keep the officer's recommendation as generic as possible, in order for council not to be swayed in any way in regards to their decision-making process within the council next week. So I hear what you're saying, that that particular part of the resolution is not addressed fully in the officer's recommendation, but it was felt that this decision should lie wholly and solely and not be swayed in any way by staff's recommendation as to whether we proceed or not proceed with the city status.
So, Madam President, does that resolve that any perhaps controversial decision, any controversial subject or recommendation from staff is going to now not have a resolution, a recommendation of a decision either way, because all it does is notes the report, notes this, notes that. That's not an officer's recommendation at all, really. It's just information gathering, and I wonder in any future consultation, and we've had plenty of really significant contentious issues, are staff now going to be able to say, well, we're just not going to recommend anything?
I think in this particular issue, it is quite a significant decision, and certainly my guidance was that to keep the recommendations generic as much as possible, and the decision-making process is left to council. Mr Putland, did you want to add to that as you wrote the report?
Yes, I'm sorry, Councillor Coleman. I'm responsible for the omission. The reason is because there's not enough there to make a recommendation either way. 1,400 people made submissions out of 32,000, a population of 32,000. There were quite compelling reasons why the city should become, why the Shire should become a city. It's outlined in the report. But of the people that made submissions, most were against. So you couldn't say, yes, there's a valid, recommendation to proceed, but also do you ignore the 95% of the population that chose to remain silent and based a recommendation on the views of 900 people? So that was why if 50% of the eligible voters, or even 25% of them, had come out and said no, we don't want to do it, it would have been an easy decision to make. But look, we were torn. Even internally, there were different views on what the recommendation should be, because the turnout was so disappointing. And we made every effort to try and get people to engage, but people just didn't appear to be interested, other than a relatively small group of the people. So that's why I didn't make a recommendation, that. What do I say? Go ahead because there's an argument for it, or don't go ahead because a small group of people were opposed. Having said that, the majority of people that did make submissions were opposed, but I couldn't say it was a significant opposition to it.
I'll go to Councillor Holly, then come back to Councillor Holly.
Yes, thank you very much. I think this is one of the biggest decisions of the Shire in the last, 50 years. So, and we're working on, say, 5% of voters. When we're elected, it's not a big percentage.
Councillor Holly, have you got a question? Because we're talking, this is question time,
So the question, so we're elected on 25%, say. So that's not a big number of 30,000 either. So why won't we listen to the 5% that voted? Because there's not a lot of difference between when we're elected at 25%.
Look, that's for council, to decide, but I'm sorry, I just didn't feel there was enough for me to make a recommendation, but I felt that there were enough so I couldn't recommend going forward. So I copped out. I could give you my personal views, but I don't think that would be fair, because I'm not a resident of the Shire of Harvey. I believe it's up to the residents and the councillors to make that decision, not me, an outsider, to make that decision for them.
Councillor Coleman?
Yeah, I'm not sure how to phrase this as a question. But how do we move on from staff being able to not follow a council resolution?
Can talk to that. Through the Shire President, I'd suggest making an amendment or an alternative motion at the meeting.
Sorry, that wasn't my question. My question was, how do we prevent staff not following council resolution in the future?
All right, I'm going to take that one on notice, and we'll come back and we'll review that the recommendation from staff. Any other questions? Councillor McCarthy.
It's actually to Mr. Putland. Just with the what you've provided in the report, it looks to me that nobody was actually excluded. So you've got actually showing here that of the 1461, only 1414 had names. So you hadn't taken out anybody who didn't have a name, or also that there were 17 who were visitors, so they're not residents or ratepayers. You hadn't taken those numbers out. You've given us everything for us to make a decision. Is that the case?
Yes, when we looked at the people, well, for a start, we didn't require a name when we started, and so we had to put some thought into that. We didn't exclude those people because it would have been unfair to exclude their opinions when we didn't ask for it in the first place. The people from outside, they're not a significant number, whichever way they go. Neither group of people significantly altered the numbers, so they were left in just to show you where they are. But you do see that those people, from outside, and the breakdown in the consultation report shows you where people voted from, so you can see across the Shire how people felt about the city status question.
Councillor Bronwyn.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. The question I have is, the way I see it is that when we review something as strategically as important as this, that we should be making our decision on what would be based planning grounds. And I'm just wondering, in relation to that, what is your perception when it comes to, when you read some of the information in the report, some of the comments made aren't factual, they're more emotive. So how do we deal with the difference between factual information provided by someone who obviously read the report and then made an opinion or gave their perspective, to someone who obviously hasn't read the information and has made comments based on geography or, some other reason, an emotive type of response?
Sorry, do you mean in relation to the comments that were provided by the members of the community?
Yeah, I read the comments, and I mean, some of them was just simply emotive. Others were obviously well thought out and had obviously read the documentation. So what I'm asking is, how do we weight them? Because I might be dead against a particular thing on an emotive issue, but have not obviously read the documentation in the report, and therefore I'm not giving I'm giving an emotive answer then, rather than something that's what's the word? That's rational.
I think that's for councillors to decide. Is an emotive answer less valid than someone that's gone out and found reasons for their answer? I mean, the person obviously feels less strongly. Doesn't feel less strongly about it because they have quite an emotive response. They obviously feel strongly. That's their opinion, and I suppose that's where what we struggled when we were reading the comments, and we had often quite a number of emails back and forwards from the same people contesting information, requesting more information, often asking the same questions, just phrased differently. But you could see those people held strong opinions. They're valid opinions. I mean, that member of the community feels strongly that way, and I think, no matter what the reasons for it are, that is their view, and it should be counted.
Councillor Hitchcock.
Hopefully mine's a bit easier to answer. Just a quick one. You said the report states that if council resolves to proceed, the immediate rebranding costs will be in the order of 56,000. Can you give me a bit more information about what that covers, please?
Yes, so we looked at the costs. What would the Shire have to do immediately? And really, it's change the logos on the main buildings. Everything else can be done over time. Logos on vehicles could be changed when the vehicles are changed. Staff uniforms, the logos can be changed when the uniforms are replaced. Even the stationery can be replaced when stationery or business cards are changed, because it doesn't alter, it's the name of the entity. It doesn't alter the contact details of people, the positions they hold. Gee, it doesn't alter the amount they're paid, or the number of people that are employed. It's a change of name for the organisation that can occur over time. Talking with the CEO of the City of Busselton, and also looking at correspondence from the former CEO, Kalamunda, who unfortunately I couldn't talk to because she's now deceased. They staged everything over a period of time. The City of Karratha, with bucket loads of money, did it all at once, because they have a rate income of $90 million a year or whatever it is. They have a huge amount of money and a population of 20,000 people. They could afford to do it all at once, but other councils have been more fiscally responsible and have staged it. So what we were saying in the report was, do the minimum necessary, stage the rest, don't incur any unnecessary costs if it's going forward.
Councillor Coleman.
Thanks, Madam President. So if things were to proceed, and if we change the name to the City of whatever, are you suggesting that we do not have to change stationery and business cards and logos immediately? Are you suggesting that over a period of time we could still trade as the Shire of Harvey on our business letterheads and our business cards and our cars without having to change any of that, except over the next 3 to 5 years?
Stationery's easy because it's electronic now. We no longer buy in realms and realms of stationery like we used to. Our publications could remain exactly the same until they're renewed. There is a different process for a name change than from a city status. The city status is quite easy. It's a letter to the minister and requesting the change. a change of name has to go through the local government advisory board, and who have to then provide a report to the minister. So that necessarily can be, or almost necessarily, could be a much longer process. But Kalamunda took 2 years from starting to finish. Busselton, I think, took around the same time. So it's the start of a process. If council proceeded, it wouldn't happen overnight. It would happen over time, and no, unless the minister said, "Well, gee, that's a great idea. I'm going to recommend to the government that the new name is gazetted immediately." But I would suspect that the process of a change in designation would not be a very quick process to go through. So there's time to plan things out and look. But but Mr. Archer, when I spoke to him, said people now, I spoke with him, I think 4 months ago, he thought people in the city of Busselton still had Shire of Busselton logos on some of their, there were still some floating around in the Shire because people look at the name of the entity, it doesn't mean a lot. They want to come to the Shire offices, or people still refer to the city of Busselton as the Shire of Busselton, by the way.
Just to clarify, I take that Busselton just changed from Shire to city. If we were to change from the Shire of Harvey to the city of Whoop Whoop, do we have to change our stationery and everything as soon as that's gazetted as a new name, is what I'm asking? Not so much just change from the Shire of Harvey to the city of Harvey. If we were to change the name, what is the costs involved, or can that be done over a 5-year period? My understanding, incorrectly perhaps, is that as soon as it's gazetted, we must trade as that name.
No, you don't need to change straight away. That's an easy one. The Shire branding can be changed over a period of time. It doesn't need to be changed because you're not changing the entity, you're changing the name of it. It's we're not an incorporated, I suppose we're incorporated under the Act for certain purposes, but we're a local government entity. It's a local government authority. We're not the same as a business, a trading business.
Thank you.
Any other questions, councillors? I have one. Thanks, Mr. Putland. A lot of weight must be given, obviously, to the participation through the surveys and the like. So were there any barriers that were identified through the consultation process that you think discouraged participation?
We did have comments made that we should have sent the survey with the notice. There were 2 reasons for not doing it. So potentially that could have been a barrier, but we wanted people to read the information first, find it on the website. And the other was we would have had to send stamped envelopes to people, return paid envelopes to people for them to respond, but then they wouldn't have read the information. So I think while it might have discouraged, it would have led to maybe a greater number of people not getting information, reading. We put the last attachment report in because we wanted to show just how much we did, trying to get out there to the community, to tell people about this, to encourage them to provide information. And it was just disappointing that so many people just were not interested. I don't, myself, know just what we could have done more other than maybe run every 30 minutes on TV, run TV ads or, full page spreads in newspapers. And to be honest, even if we did that, I don't think we would have had a significant increase in the number of submissions. People knew about it, I'm sure. They just were not that interested enough to participate in the survey or send us an email even. We did get a lot of those, or quite a number of those. People chose to participate, just not many of them.
And I suppose a follow-on from that was, having attended the the 7 community meetings, I understand, or I acknowledge the demographics of those people that attended those particular meetings, but were there any demographics or areas that were underrepresented, do you feel, in that consultation process?
Yeah, the younger demographic.
The younger ones, yeah.
Really, I don't know, there's the majority of people that we identified or that came to the meetings were baby boomers. There were very few of the younger, in comparison. Yeah, it was very few, and I suppose that was a learning out of this, whatever the council decision on the city status, that there is a whole huge group of the community that are just not engaged in local government processes in the Shire. There were more people contributed to the council plan. There were far more people voted in the local government elections, if you go way back to the Barnett government, when the people proposed amalgamation of local governments, there was something like a 90% turnout. Somehow we've missed the boat. We just haven't managed to engage with the majority of the community, so we don't know what they think on this, but then it must also potentially occur with other matters where the Shire goes out to consult with the community to find out their views. And I don't have an answer, but I think it would be nice to find better ways to communicate.
And the process that we've undertaken, which was part of the council's resolution, that can't be challenged procedurally or administratively or anything. We've done the best we can.
I think anyone can challenge any process. We put the attachment in the report to demonstrate just how much we did do. I don't think you could say, it would be practical for the Shire to do more. I don't know that there would be any benefit in doing more. But there must be a better way of engaging with the community somehow. And I must say, I've got to really thank the communications team. They were outstanding. They just went above and beyond, really trying to engage and responded to questions, responded to emails as quickly as they could. They came to they set up the public meetings. They just did a fantastic job. It's just disappointing that it didn't have a lot of benefit, unfortunately.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Putland. Any other questions, councillors? No, thank you. I'll move on to item 5.1.2, which I declare an impartiality interest in regards to this one, as I'm actually on the chair the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee. You're on that committee too, and there's a number of us, so we'll check the list and we'll put in a blanket impartiality interest in relation to this item. But are there any questions, councillors? Councillor Hitchcock.
I noticed that a sitting fee of $880 has been recommended. Do we know what other shires are offering?
Ms Williams?
Through the chair, so it did vary. Some were as little as, say, $400 for a sitting fee, all the way up to what we can provide at our band level. But I guess for an officer to make that decision, I simply looked at what the Shire President could receive if they were sitting in the same seat for a meeting, and we paid the fees per meeting and not on an annual basis, and that's capped at around $800. So that was really the only assessment that I made when drafting the report, but it really varies across local governments, and it depended, I guess, on the experience of the person that they are putting in the seat, what their qualifications were, etc.
And just following on from that, the position actually, there's generally a lot of reading to do as well, so it's not just coming and presiding over the Audit and Risk Committee meeting. There's lots of documents to read and attending OAG briefings and the like as well, so it's not just the role of presiding at the committee meeting. Councillor Bromham.
Yeah, I have an impartial interest in this as well because I was actually at the committee meeting, so I should.
Yeah, we'll do a blanket one on that one, but we'll have it ready for next week at the ICM. Any other questions, councillors? Thank you. 5.1.3, which is the Southwest Country Zone meeting minutes. Just noting those, if there's any questions. Councillor Bromham?
Yeah, get it going. I was interested in the shot hole borer and how we are managing that within our particular area in relation to its and has it spread beyond the urban areas where it's presently been identified.
I would suggest that we haven't heard that it's spread into our local government, but it certainly still remains a area of concern for a lot of the local governments that reside on the Southwest Country Zone, because should it get into their particular areas where there's lots of agricultural activity, it could be quite devastating. So in answer to your question, I haven't heard whether it's in our area. It is now, my understanding is the state government has now said it's a local government issue to manage it, and we will consider that as we move forward. But I think we keep that messaging up through our media platforms to remind locals to keep an eye out for it. The thing is, when we get people transitioning through our shire and holidaying in the area, what they bring into the area as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, I guess the reason I asked the question is because I just wondered if we should be allocating funds towards that through our budget processes so that we actually have something in the future should it be required.
We can consider that. Yeah. Any other questions, councillors? I'll move on to 5.1.4, which is the Behaviour Complaints Committee, update to the authority, terms of reference and appointments. Are there any questions? Yes, Councillor Coleman.
Yeah, just a quick one to clarify, if I may. Officer's recommendation 2 of 4 says that the CEO, the Director of Corporate Services and Manager Governance and Strategy are authorised to receive behaviour complaints. Is it in that order or is it all 3? So does it go to all 3 at the same time, or does it go through to the CEO, and if they're not there or not available, down to the Director, then down to the Manager?
CEO for Ms Williams.
Yeah, thank you. Through the Shire President, there's no order of precedence. It really, how we manage it at the moment is depending on the workload of staff and the direction of the Chief Executive Officer as our employer. So between the Director of Corporate Services and myself, it really depends on which one of us is available at the time and the direction from the CEO.
Clarify, it only goes to one, not the 3 of you, or does it go to the 3 of you and one of you pick it up as a workload?
Through the Shire President at the moment, it's to the CEO and one of us pick it up as a workload.
Any other questions, councillors? Item 5.1.5, which is the Code of Conduct Behaviour Complaints Policy, version 3. Any questions, councillors? No? Thank you. We'll move on to Infrastructure Services, 5.2.1, which is the Galway Green Irrigation Mainline Upgrade. I will be mighty pleased when we get this one sorted. Are there any questions, councillors, in relation to this one? Bearing in mind the tender process is confidential, so if there's anything in relation to the tender, we'll go behind closed doors. Since I've got Mr Faber here, are we guaranteed, Mr Faber, that this will resolve the issue at Galway Green? Yes. Can we come up and tell, because I have Galway Green residents that actually ask me quite regularly what is happening.
Through the chair, so the mainline upgrade will take away the risk that we currently face with having a pressurised mainline. So being currently under pressure and being old, it is blowing quite regularly. The new main line won't be pressurised, so it'll be on a demand system from our bore. So it will have a different functioning, and that'll remove that current risk. And it'll also take our new main line out of being under footpaths and a lot of those issues that we're currently facing where we have to rip up a footpath to repair it. So the answer would be yes.
Sounds like a good investment then. Yep, thank you, Mr Faber. No further questions, councillors? Thank you. 5.2.2, I think Councillor Coleman has a impartiality interest in relation to this one. This is the closure of the unused road reserve. And there's a PIN number a mile long, looks like a mobile phone number. Are there any questions in relation to this one, councillors? I'm just interested that, just the process that I read, that even if we go through this process, the applicant still has to manage it separately with the state government to sort out the ownership and the transfer. Is that right? Yeah, I'm looking over there.
All we do is we give it back, and then they negotiate with the Department of Planning, and I presume they'll give a price, etc., and they'll negotiate with them and take it off. All we're doing is saying we don't need it anymore.
Okay, Councillor Coleman. We'll leave it till next week. Thank you. All righty. Sustainable Development 5.3.1, which is the draft updated local planning strategy. We're endorsing this for advertising, and we had a bit of a quick overview of that this afternoon. Councillor Coleman.
Yeah, just a question. Following on from points 1, 2 and 3 of the officer's recommendation, does that then, after it's gone to the Planning Commission's certification and advertising for draft planning strategy, does it come back to council, or is it a fait accompli? Do we know about it? Do we get a report? Do we have to vote on it? What's the step after step 3 that would normally happen?
So through the chair, if it goes through this process, you should be able to go out straight for advertisement, and that's 21 days to 28, longer if needed, but that's the request of the WAPC. Anything that changes within that may come back to council depending on the response.
So sorry, if there's no response and it goes out for advertising and everyone's just happy or silent or whatever, is it just go through? We don't get anything? Do we get notified? I don't know what the process is. That's why I'm asking. Yeah.
Would it come back for council for endorsement is what you're asking once it's gone up to the WA?
Sure,
no,
as far
DPLH.
as it does come back to council.
It does. So it'll come back to us. Any other questions, councillors? All right. Corporate Services 5.4.1, which is financial statements as at the 30th of April 2026. Any questions? Councillor Coleman.
Yeah, just a clarifying, if I may, because I'm not sure. So on page 40, which is the front page, we have a end of period surplus or deficit of 14 odd million. Where does that figure come from? How's that figure generated? Because when I was just adding up, the pluses and the minuses in the column above it don't add up to that figure. So I'm just trying to figure out where it actually comes from. Sorry.
Mr Winter?
You're right, it is difficult to see those. There is some transactions down the bottom that are included. I'm not going to get them all, but however, if you look at the minus and add through the minuses, you'll see that the total of those versus the total of the positives will closely give you that figure. Oh, sorry, I'm on the wrong document. Yeah, so the end of period surplus deficit refers to the statement of financial position in the statements, and when you go to that, it's the tally of all the minuses less the tally of all the positives is probably the easiest way that I can say it. And when you add that, you're still going to be out a little bit.
Okay, yeah,
So-
I got the positives minus
Yeah,
the
yeah.
minuses bit,
And-
but it's not related to those variance figures above it, is it?
No, no, it's
Okay,
not.
yeah,
No,
that's-
that's
okay.
coming from that document.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I can ask through you, Madam President, if our Manager Finance has a better explanation.
He's here. We might as well get him up there since he made the effort. Thanks, Sunil.
Thank you, Madam President, and thanks, Dean. I think the clarification is, you clarified correctly. It's nothing for me more to add. The only thing is, in this closing surplus, we have to add depreciation back because it's a non-cash expenditure. So that's, it's not been added, so it's not shown over here. But if you add depreciation back, it will end up as a surplus.
Thank you.
There we go. Thank you, Sunil. No other questions, councillors? All right, we'll move on to 5.4.2, which is payments for April 2026. Any questions, councillors? No, thank you. We'll move on to 5.4.3, which is the proposed fees and charges for 2026 through to 2027. This will require an absolute majority next week. Do we have any questions? We have workshopped this one, councillors, but there may be some questions. No, all good. Community and lifestyle is nil, and that's noted that it's nil. Thank you. Notice of motion for the May OCM? May OCM, yep. Is as written. Are there any questions? Yes, councillor Coleman.
Thank you. So can I safely assume that governance have helped determine this motion? So, because my query is, why can't we just change the other one so that Wickham Road stays as is, if that's right, and Wickham Street becomes Victoria? Why do we have to discontinue this, then go back out to public consultation, blah, blah, blah? Why can't we just say, we got it wrong? Can we make Wickham Road stay as is and Wickham Street be changed?
And
Yeah,
or whatever.
Yeah, that's my
There is a
question.
process. Over to you, Mr Hughes.
So through the chair, on speaking with Landgate myself, it's because we're going out to the community again, we'll have to go and give them the opportunity to respond again. So it's not a governance matter within the Shire, it's requirement as part of the process, the application process.
Sorry, did you say because we're going out to public consultation again, we have to give them a chance to respond?
We need to go out to public
Oh, you have to do
consultation,
it?
yes.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I think that's the crux of the issue, is that we have to go back out to community consultation process again and then bring it back, I know. If that's what the resolution is next week.
I'm
Yeah.
just asking the question
Yeah.
as to why that process, that's all.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions, councillors? No matters behind closed doors? We're all happy? I declare the agenda briefing meeting closed, and thank you everyone for your attention.